First the arms of the Republic, the eagle and nopal, and above a full length portrait of C n, represented by a figure in a blue and silver uniform. Down fell the Mexican eagle with a crash at his feet, while he remained burning brightly, and lighted up the fireworks in the midst of tremendous shouts and cheers. Thus terminated this función extraordinaria, and when all was over, we went to dine at Countess C a's, and had some music in the evening, and afterwards returned home tolerably tired. 10th. The fancy ball took place last evening in the theatre, and although owing either to the change of climate, or to the dampness of the house, I have been obliged to keep my room since the day of the bull fight, and to decline a pleasant dinner at the English Minister's, I thought it advisable to make my appearance there. Having discarded the costume of the light-headed Poblamanas, I adopted that of a virtuous Roman contadina, simple enough to be run up in one day. A white skirt, red bodice, with blue ribbons, and lace veil put on square behind, apropos to which headdress it is very common amongst the Indians to wear a piece of stuff folded square and laid flat upon the head, in this Italian fashion, and as it is not fastened, I cannot imagine how they trot along without letting it fall. We went to the theatre about 11, and found the entrée, though crowded, with carriages very quiet and orderly. The coup d'oeil on entering was extremely gay, and certainly very amusing. The ball given for the benefit of the poor was under the patronage of the ladies C a, G a, Guerre, and others, but such was the original dirtiness and bad condition of the theatre, that to make it decent they had expended nearly all the proceeds. As it was, and considering the various drawbacks, the arrangements were very good. Handsome lustres had superseded the lanterns with their tallow candles, the boxes were hung with bright silk draperies, and a canopy of the same, drawn up in the form of a tent, covered the whole ballroom. The orchestra also was tolerably good. The boxes were filled with ladies, presenting an endless succession of China crape shawls of every colour and variety, and a monotony of diamond earrings, while in the theatre itself, if ever a ball might be termed a fancy ball, this was that ball. Of Swiss peasants, Scotch peasants, and all manner of peasants, there were a goodly assortment, as also of Turks, Highlanders, and men in plain clothes. But being public, it was not of course select, and amongst many well-dressed people there were hundreds who, assuming no particular character, had exerted their imagination to appear more fanciful, and had succeeded. One, for example, would have a scarlet satin petticoat, and over it a pink satin robe, with scarlet ribbons to match. Another a short blue satin dress, beneath which appeared a handsome purple satin petticoat, the whole trimmed with yellow bows. They looked like the signs of the zodiac. All had diamonds and pearls, old and young and middle-aged, including little children, of whom there were many. The lady patronesses were very elegant. The Señora de Guerra wore a headdress in the form of a net, entirely composed of large pearls and diamonds, in itself a fortune. The Señora de C a, as Madame de la Vallière, in black velvet and diamonds, looking pretty as usual, but the cold of the house obliged her to muffle up in furs and boas, and so to hide her dress. The Señora de G a, as Mary, Queen of Scots, in black velvet and pearls, with a splendid diamond necklace, was extremely handsome. She wore a cap, introduced by the Albini, in the character of the Scottish Queen, but which, though pretty in itself, is a complete deviation from the beautiful simplicity of the real Queen Mary cap. She certainly looked as if she had arrived at her prime without knowing Fotheringay. Various ladies were introduced to me, who are only waiting to receive our cards of fair part before they call. Amongst the girls, the best dresses that I observed were the Señoritas de F d, the one handsome, with the figure and face of a Spanish peasant, the other much more graceful and intelligent looking, though with less actual beauty. However, so many of the most fashionable people were in their boxes, that I am told this is not a good occasion on which to judge of the beauty or style of toilette of the Mexican women; besides which, these fancy balls being uncommon, they would probably look better in their usual costume. Upon the whole, I saw few striking beauties, little grace, and very little good dancing. There was too much velvet and satin, and the dresses were too much loaded. The diamonds, though superb, were frequently ill set. The dresses, compared with the actual fashion, were absurdly short, and the feet, naturally small, were squeezed into shoes still smaller, which is destructive to grace whether in walking or dancing. There was a young gentleman pointed out to me as being in the costume of a Highlander. How I wished that Sir William Cumming, Macleod of Macleod, or some veritable Highland chieftain, could suddenly have appeared to annihilate him, and show the people here what the dress really is. There were various unfortunate children bundled up in long satin or velvet dresses, covered with blonde and jewels, and with artificial flowers in their hair. The room was excessively cold, nor was the ancient odour of the theatre entirely obliterated, nor indeed do I think that all the perfumes of Arabia would overpower it. Having walked about and admired all the varieties of fancy costumes, I, being nearly frozen, went to the Countess C.'s box on the pit tier, and enveloped myself in a cloak. They pointed out the most distinguished persons in the boxes, amongst others the family of the E.S., who seem very handsome, with brilliant colours and fine teeth. We remained until 3 in the morning, and declined all offers of refreshment, though, after all, a cup of hot chocolate would not have been amiss. There was supper somewhere, but I believe attended only by gentlemen. I had the satisfaction in passing out to see numerous ladies on their partners' arms, and all bedizened as they were with finery, stop under the lamps and light their cigars, cool and pretty. 16th. I have passed nearly a week in a slight fever, shivering and hot. I was attended by a doctor of the country, who seems the most harmless creature imaginable. Every day he felt my pulse and gave me some little innocent mixture. But what he especially gave me was a lesson in polite conversation. Every day we had the following dialogue as he rose to take leave. "Madame," this by the bedside, "I am at your service." "Many thanks, sir." "Madame," this at the foot of the bed, "know me for your most humble servant." "Good morning, sir." "Madame," here he stopped beside a table, "I kiss your feet." "Sir, I kiss your hand." "Madame," this near the door, "my poor house and all in it, myself though useless, all I have, is yours." "Many thanks, sir." He turns round and opens the door, again turning round as he does so. "Adieu, madame, your servant." "Adieu, sir." He goes out, partly reopens the door, and puts in his head. "Good morning, madame." This civility, so lengthened out, as if parting were such sweet sorrow, between doctor and patient, seems rather misplaced. It is here considered more polite to say "Señorita" than "Señora," even to married women, and the lady of the house is generally called by her servants "La Niña," the little girl, even though she be over 80. This last custom is still more common in Havana, where the old negresses, who have always lived in the family, and are accustomed to call their young mistresses by this name, never change, whatever be her age. I have received a packet of letters which have done me more good than the old doctor's visits. The captain left us yesterday, and took charge of a box of chocolates stamped with various figures, and of some curious dulces for you. Our cards, giving the Mexicans the tardy information of our arrival, were sent out some days ago. I copy one, that you may have a specimen of the style, which looks for all the world like that of a shop advertisement, purporting that Don makes wigs, dresses hair, and so forth, while Doña washes lace and does up fine linen. Don A. C. de la Barca, enviado extraordinario y ministro plenipotenciario de H.M.C. cerca de la República Mexicana, y su esposa, Doña F. E. C. de la Barca, participan a su llegada a este capital y se ofrecen a su disposición en la plazuela de Buenavista número 2. Footnote 1. Don A. C. de la Barca, Envoy Extraordinary and Minister Plenipotentiary from H.C.M. and his lady, Doña F. E. C. de la Barca, inform you of their arrival in this capital, and put themselves at your disposal in the street of Buenavista, No. 2. 18th. For the last few days our rooms have been filled with visitors, and my eyes are scarcely yet accustomed to the display of diamonds, pearls, silks, satins, and blondes, and velvets, in which the ladies have paid their first visits of etiquette. A few of the dresses I shall record for your benefit, not as being richer than the others, but that I happen to recollect them best. The Marques